Greetings, everyone. Priz again. This little tutorial is kind of going to be about some tips for SimAgri. I'm not calling it a top 10 tips or anything because that's kind of subjective. For example, if you're doing chickens, any tips with chickens is going to be important. If you're not doing chickens, it's not important. So it's really kind of hard to rank these in any particular fashion. So we'll just call it a list of 10 tips, and as I think of more, maybe I'll do an additional 10 or an 11 to 20 or 21 to 30. We'll see how this goes. The first thing I would like to tell you about SimAgri: start small. You don't want to make a mistake of building something too big that you don't need. It costs a lot of money. I can't remember exactly how much money you start in the game with. I think it's 100,000 euros, but it goes pretty fast. So you'll really want to keep an eye on your money, especially at the beginning. I mean, I'll give you an example here. Like in my buildings, I have ridiculous amounts of hens and chickens, so I have a whole lot of hen houses going. But you notice one of them up here, roosters. It's only 800 meters. I never needed to expand it beyond that. My ones that the hens are in, they're all 10,000 meters. These are ridiculously expensive, like 600,000 at the base. I don't need that for roosters because I don't keep that many roosters around. I don't need, an equal number of them. A lot of those roosters go to the slaughterhouse. I've got over 1 million hens, but I only got a couple hundred roosters. So there's no sense having a rooster house that's gigantic. It's just kind of a waste of money. So start small and then expand. A lot of times I'll build a couple small buildings, and then as they fill up, I'll move all the animals into one of them, and then the second one I'll expand it and move some animals back. It's better to start small and try and keep as much money on hand early in the game as you possibly can. All right, another tip for you: buy used equipment. I still buy used equipment. I've got 7 million on hand. I've got closing in on 9,000 hectares of land. I've got millions of animals. I could certainly buy all the new stuff I want. I even have an equipment dealer, but I often go over here to purchase secondhand equipment because there are deals out there. And especially, again, when you're starting the game, you don't have a lot of money. The best to maybe, you might be looking for a tractor. Let's go ahead and do tractors. Secondhand, you're going to get something a little smaller here, maybe, let's say 80 to 110 horsepower. This one right here, even, I mean, it's 4,300 euros. I'm not sure what that would cost new, but it's probably, be close to like this one here. This Fendt is ridiculous, 58,000. It's used, but it's about new. It's basically a last year model. It's a 2018 model, so it's selling as used. That's a lot of money. Whereas you can, for a tenth of that, get this one. Yeah, sure, the maintenance is only 49%. 80% of its action points are used up, but a lot of times you could get two of these, and you can check in other regions. It doesn't hurt to, if I wanted to check all regions, or maybe I want to just check the Northeast also, see what they got up there. This one's 32,000. I could get this one and this one in the South at 4,300. I could get both those for 36,000, which is less than this 2018 one. It's and I would recommend, if you're buying used equipment, it's okay to get a couple of them because they will break down more often because the maintenance is the equipment's wearing out. So having a backup is not bad, and a lot of times you can get two of them for the price of one. A lot of my in fact, on my transportation company, going to my garage, if I go down here, my trucks are all pretty new. I believe all these trailers, I think I bought them all used, every one of them. There are people who get into the trucking industry and then they won't do it after a while, and they end up selling them on the market. It's like, okay, great, I'll get them for half price. Why should I waste top dollar on the things? So definitely take advantage of the used market. All right, our next tip kind of goes along with the last one. If you're just starting out, take advantage of what they call Farmworks Firms. This is other players who come and do work for you on your plots. It's something you might want to even get involved with later in the game. There's no reason, if you have a plot and you don't have all the equipment, because you need plows and tillers and harrows, and you need a seeder, and you need all these things to get your farm going, and it all costs money. It's a lot of times it would be, if I just pick any plot here that I'm not doing anything with yet, I could, you know, plow this. You have an option down here to call a contractor. So if I am only going to have like a couple of plots a year to start with, I don't generally necessarily want to have to invest in all this equipment. When you're just starting out, I might find somebody who's kind of local. And these guys here, Stargun's only charging what, 25 per hectare. I could just select him. He'll come and do the work. Yeah, you're paying for it, but you don't have to outlay the equipment. It's a nice way the first few seasons to get some crops in and be able to get money from those. Let somebody else do the work, and you don't have to invest in all the equipment. There may be just down the road, maybe there's some things you just don't like doing, so you'll just always call a Farmworks firm for it. And definitely the other players will appreciate getting the business. So don't forget to use the Farmworks firm. All right, the next tip is going to be on animals. I definitely recommend, though I hate them, start with chickens. I hate chickens. When I started the game, I didn't do chickens. I did rabbits. That's why my farm is called the Hare Report. I did rabbits, and it's very expensive. The buildings are very expensive. They breed fast. They breed like rabbits. But the buildings are so expensive, it's ridiculous trying to keep up with it. Whereas poultry, the hen houses are really relatively cheap. They don't take up, the chickens don't take up a lot of room. I showed you these buildings, these hen houses that I have that are 10,000 meters. That'll hold 100,000 chickens. That's a lot of chickens. So, I mean, they take only 6 months, which is 6 weeks of real time, to grow to adulthood. They're a good money maker early on. Plus, you get the secondary income from eggs that you can sell every day. That the hens, any that are not inseminated, they can actually lay eggs every day that you'll get, and you can sell at market or just sell to SimAgri. So it's a nice little secondary income. Definitely start with the poultry, and just again in the vein of starting small, just do one animal till you get the hang of it. Don't try and do every, you know, it's fun. I've got animals of all sorts of things. I've done every animal at one time or another. But you don't want to start that way because it gets overwhelming and too confusing. Your best bet, start with chickens. They actually even recommend it in the game rules. It's a good, easy way to make money from the very beginning of the game. Okay, my next tip. This is also animal related. This kind of goes for most of them, except for buffalo and possibly horses. But you have an option in these. I can go in here and like my male chicks. And you can select, like I select all these and I could vaccinate them. It's funny, I will buy animals on the market that people have vaccinated these. If you're picking up the manure every day and you're putting down straw every day and you're feeding them food, and especially if you're giving them 3-star quality straw, which is bedding, and 3-star quality food, they're not going to get sick unless you screw up and don't pick up manure. They generally won't get sick. You can even miss straw for a day as long as they have enough straw for like a week. There's no sense, and this costs a lot of money. If I were to vaccinate all 74,000 of these male chicks that I have, just to see what it would be, it would let's see, it's 1.5 euros each. It would cost 100,000 euros. I almost never have a sick chicken. All right, now that being said, I do want to let you know that buffalo, I do actually vaccinate the buffalo. Kind of historically accurate, you know. We Americans did a very great job almost annihilating all the buffaloes that were in North America. So because of that, buffalo have a very diminished immune system because they're kind of interbred. They're pretty much all the buffalo that are around were, you know, bred from like the last 1,200 existing buffalo. They have very weakened immune systems, and for the accuracy of that, they tend to get sick just randomly. You can give them the best of everything. They'll still get sick. So the buffalo, I do actually, and I have some that need it down here, so I will go ahead and do these. You can actually select all, and if you do it all, it'll only charge you for the ones it's doing there. So I could vaccinate and go ahead and do them. They cost 20 euros a pop. So that's going to be 80, but they're good for a year. And I like to do that because these will just get randomly sick. They could have the highest quality food, plenty of room to run and in range, and they'll just get sick anyway. So I have kind of seen it occasionally with horses, but buffalo are the only ones that I find it to be very regular. So they I will vaccinate. Everything else, I don't have anything vaccinated. I mean, I can go through my young rams. There's not a one in here that's vaccinated. I could look through my guinea fowl, my I guess, let's see, my goats, yeah, let's just look at some male kids, none of them. None of them are vaccinated. They're perfectly fine. Don't waste your money. Don't vaccinate. As long as you're remembering to play the game and get rid of the manure, give them clean quality straw, give them high quality food. They're not going to get sick. Okay, and now here's another little random one. Maybe I should have actually started with this, but um, it's a good one to remember to do. You have a notepad up here. My notepad, it actually displays on your homepage. Use it. Use it regularly. I keep lots of notes. Like down here, I have like tobacco because it's kind of weird what you have to grow what you need for a plot. So I just made notes of it here. This is actually all in the game rules, but I copied it and pasted it into here. I put what the maximum lifespan is of all my animals, so I kind of know when to get rid of them when they're getting near the end of their life. I do need to make a note down here that goats, because I'm trying to do them organic, they'll lose their organic label after their 5th birthday, so I do want to get rid of them earlier. But I just put little notes here for various things I'm doing. What the price of potatoes to SimAgri was, what I should stop doing small plots on my market garden. Anytime I have things that I just need to remember, whatever, it's a good thing to just go ahead in your notepad, click on it, add to whatever, and save it. You can even have one here for annuals. You can separate them by month so you can actually organize them all and have different notes for different months of the year to help you remember things. Because, a year in SimAgri is 12 weeks. You might forget what you were doing in April this year as opposed to last year. So it's good to have different little notepads going. It really does help keep you organized in the game. I would highly recommend utilizing the notepads. All right, next I'm going to cover, let's cover some free range stuff with your animals. I recommend free range as much as you can. A lot of people think it's a waste. It does cost money. It's relatively inexpensive compared to the regular houses. If you look, there's like I have hen houses. That's my defaults here. My hen houses. I have lots of them. But I also have in the standing equipment, I have hen pens. The logic is that they're let out during the day. They go into hen pens. They peck some grass on the ground. They grow better. They get bigger. They get fatter. I've found that they tend to be 15 to 20% bigger and fatter, which means you get 10, 15% more at the time of slaughter. It's worth it, at least while they're chicks and pullets. Once they become a hen or a rooster, really no point in them being outside anymore, so I bring them back into intensive rearing. But look at all these hen pens. These are all filled. I got 2 pages of them. They're all filled with chicks and pullets. Just opening one of these here, I've got 17,000 female pullets in that one, and another 19,000 in this one. These are just filled with them, and they're growing. You can actually go onto the server. Let's see if I actually, is it under ranking? Yeah, ranking, animal ranking. Just going to look at some random things. I've not even been doing chickens that long. I finally broke down and started doing chickens. But if I do them by weight, you get prize money if you're in the top 5 on anything. So this is where these things kind of pay for themselves. If you look at my, like here in the Borbergs, I've got like the number 2 chick. I've got 3 of the 5 male chicks, most of the female pullets. I've got all the biggest, fattest hens. Each of these give me €5 every time they make it into the top 5. So the prize money alone, I figure, ends up paying for for having the hen pen to keep them in free range. And when I go to slaughter them, if they maybe brought €12, that'll be like 15% more, 10 to 15% more. So I'll get an extra 120 to 150, which adds up when you start slaughtering. Tomorrow I'm going to have over 100,000 males grow, and I'm going to slaughter them for like $1.5 million. Where if they weren't in free range, if they had not lived in free range and grown their life there, I'd get like 1.2 million. Now I'm going to get 1.5 million. So it's a significant difference. It does become a bit of work. I've worked out a method how I jockey them around to keep them in keep the chicks and the pullets in free range, and then get them out on their last day. I will generally go in here. I look for anything down here that's about to grow, like these pullets. I'll select the male pullets, select them all, and then say move, put them back into intensive rearing. Because on the last day, they don't grow. The stats that they will have as their last day, the 6-month day, will be the exact same stats they have at 6 months and 1 day. The only thing that changes, they're now called a rooster and not a pullet. But nothing changes. Their weight won't go up. Their stats won't go up. It's going to be exactly the same. So I will actually, on their very last day, I will take them out of free range, put them in intensive rearing because they're not going to grow anymore. No sense them being out there. But I definitely leave them out there. It is an expense. They do cost money. I can't remember. It's $60,000, I think, for the maximum size hen pen. But you're going to have it a long time, so it's going to way more than pay for itself. Just in the amount of animals that you'll get that will actually get you award money for being amongst the heaviest. I would imagine down the road I'll probably end up with all the biggest, fattest chickens because I've only had them a couple seasons now, and I'm already getting that kind of award money. So it's definitely, to me anyway, some players don't like using it. I do like actually giving them free range, so I just think it's worth doing. But you know, to each their own. You do you. You play the game how you want, but I definitely recommend free ranging your animals. Okay, another tip. This is going to be a little more for the advanced people. You have an option to have feeding robots in this game, right over here. The feeding robot, if you're familiar with it. When you do it, you can actually set up. You actually go in here and like you tell young doe what you want it to feed. You want it, how often you want them to feed. They can be scheduled for, you know, numerous times a day whenever it's available. There's some of these because I like to slaughter them beforehand. Like the guinea fowl roosters, I only need a few around. So when I'm doing these, I'll actually go in here. Let's see, my guinea fowl roosters, any of my guinea fowls, they're not getting fed that first feeding of the morning because I don't want them fed. I want to have the opportunity to slaughter them before feeding time. So right now I have it scheduled. I'm glad I actually did this because I want to remove the second one. I'm up by 4 or 5 a.m. So then they'll get fed at 1 p.m. But I don't want them to get fed earlier than that because most of them are going to get slaughtered that day, the day they become a rooster. So I'm going to actually have them fed a little later in the day. The one thing I wanted to show you on this is do the maintenance. If you fail to do the maintenance on your feeding robots, this bar keeps filling. When it hits like 90% or something, your robot starts using more electricity, becomes less efficient, and it uses more APs to actually feed the animals. So it's costing you money. And I think a lot of people forget, you not only do the equipment maintenance on your regular equipment and the building maintenance on your buildings, you got to go into each one of these robots. I have them for my cattle and my goats and my sheep and my poultry and my guinea fowl, and I just built one for ducks. But you got to go in there and actually maintain it. I can't remember exactly what it is, but I think it's 10 or 20% penalty in the amount of electricity that gets used and the amount of APs that get used. So definitely check this, and when it gets up there, I just did mine not too long ago, so they're all pretty low. Look at some of these. All of these are like 6%. I think I have some that are, let's check, see if I can find something that's, yeah, the chicken one, it's up to 56%. But at some point, you can actually call a workshop, have them come in and work on this thing. Otherwise, you're going to, already this chicken one, I have so many chickens that have to be fed. It's using 112,000 kilowatt hours of electricity, and it uses a lot of APs to feed the animals. So it's very important that you actually check your maintenance on these. Once they get up, especially if they're like 100%, it's just sucking up extra APs and extra electricity. And I think people forget that these actually need to be maintained. So try and check them. Make it like a regular weekly thing that you just pop in and check on them if you're using feeding robots. If not, don't worry about them. They're kind of expensive. If you're doing a lot of animals, though, they're worth it. That's one of the slowest things in the world if you're doing all these different breeds of animals or different species of animals, is feeding everything takes forever. So the robots is one of my favorite things that they ever introduced into the game. Okay, this is going to be one that's maybe for some other advanced players. There's an activity for an artificial insemination center. So this is going to be 2 tips in one. Number 1, I recommend you use the artificial insemination center. Even if you don't think you have that great of animals, it's worth doing. And my gosh, I have over 400 animals in mine. And the reason is I use them for me. I don't care if other people give me orders. These are here primarily for me to do my animals. And the reason for that is, I go back to my farm, look at my livestock. let's say I'm going to go just on my hens and I want to inseminate something. So I'm going to look at stuff that's inseminable. Let's look at combined also. So I just get big groups of them. Like here's one that's 170 animals. If I want to inseminate this, and I had SimAgri do it, and that's what a lot of people do. It's €6 per animal. Per animal. There's 170 in that group. That's over €1,000. If I have my inseminators do it, it'll tell you it's €4, but I'm paying it to myself. So, yeah, 4 come out of my pocket, but it goes right back in my pocket because I run the insemination center. And it'll actually even show you when you do the breakdown of your accounts that, 4 times whatever, so 680 came out, but then 680 just came right back in. So you actually end up getting your money back. I mean, an inseminator only costs you €250 a day, so it's really worth it to have, your inseminators do your own insemination rather than using SimAgri. Plus, you tend to have better ones in there rather than just random stats. So it's really, to me, it's kind of a no-brainer. Definitely have an AIC, even just for your own animals, particularly if you're planning on doing lots of animals. If you're not, obviously, you don't even worry about that. You don't bother with it. I do want to show you here, though, like tomorrow, I've already set up my one for which will tomorrow for me will be Saturday morning. If I go into my follow-up, my orders, I already have all these chickens I'm going to inseminate tomorrow. It's 20,000 chickens. This would cost me $120,000 from SimAgri. That's ridiculous. But instead, they're all going to be my roosters. That's why I'm keeping alive so many roosters. These ones are going to be all inseminated by my own stock, and it's going to be €120,000 that I save. I've done more inseminations than anybody on the U.S. server. I have like twice as many as anybody else. And I just constantly run this AIC. I do have a lot of customers that use me quite heavily because I have so many doses stocked up. I will say that, and this is going to be the last tip. This would be tip 10 here. If you do have an AIC and there are some animals that you want to reserve for yourself, if you go in here, let's see, under contracts, if you go in here, like species, I want to do poultry. Okay, once you've done that, once you've selected the species that you're doing, like my absolute best here, I don't want to take any, this 545, I'm going to tell you something sneaky about an AIC. I want my best rooster to be for me. I don't want it to be for anyone else because I fear that they'll get a better rooster out of the deal, and then they'll put it in their AIC and they'll steal business from me. So these ones here, I want to actually break off, and it will say, break off this contract, do not receive new orders for this male. Okay, and that changes it to a, play sign now. And I'm going to do the same one with the one that's 544. These are my 2 best males. Glad I checked this. I did not change this on them. I want to actually not accept new ones on this. Now, even though it says do not accept new ones, it will accept them from you, just not anyone else. So other players can't use those roosters. They cannot use them. In fact, like my top 10 or so, well, I guess it's top 7 here, all of these are reserved for me. Nobody else can actually do, see, it's 545, this is ranking. And just to show you that I can still use it, I'm going to go into livestock. I will go into my hens. And it says I'm not taking new orders, but if I go into the Musanes, and I go into inseminable, and I just pick any one random one here, and I want to inseminate it, there's my one, 545. It says this AIC does not propose this male at the moment. That's what other players, this will be grayed out, and they won't be able to put an order in. I will. I can actually put the order in, so I'm saving my best males for me, and other players, sorry, don't know what to tell you, but occasionally sometimes I'll unlock them. I don't want them down too far, but basically any of them down to, let's see which ones are reserved. So from there, 542 up, all those are mine. Anything under that, other people can use. Eventually I'll get these 542s and I'll unlock them, but for the most part, I want the absolute best males to be reserved just for my stock so I can just keep the breed going better. So that's a little trick that I've definitely learned to do with the AIC. Anyway, that's going to kind of wrap it up for this. I've got a whole list of things. I'm definitely going to make an 11 through 20 and probably a 21 through 30. If as I think of more, I'll probably even make more of them. If you play SimAgri and you've thought of some tips and whatever, and then have some ideas, go ahead and feel free to leave them in the comments below on YouTube here. I'll give you some credit if somebody comes up with a good tip and I go, hey, that's great, I should include that. So go ahead and feel free and then leave as many as you want or whatever. In the meantime, I appreciate you watching. I hope you learned something. Not every tip is viable for every player. You all have different situations. If you're not doing animals, you don't care about the AIC. So it's going to be different types of things. If you're not doing, farming on plots, then you're not going to care so much about, all the different tractors and everything. But it all depends on how you're playing the game, and there's a million ways to play this game. So it's definitely going to be interesting doing this kind of tips and tricks tutorial type things, because there's so many different things to cover in this game. And until next time, I guess we'll see you out there, and hope you have a happy farming experience, and take care, and ciao.